wants to see us again soon.
You'll not stay away.
Mama!
Oh,
she's burning.
You only give up.
No. We wouldn't.
Outlander movie trailer and first look. Everything we know. So far, something is happening. And if you are an Outlander fan, you need to stop whatever you are doing right now and pay attention. Because the internet just exploded, and the fandom has not been this alive since the Season 8 finale dropped. There are whispers. There are hints. There are things being said by the people closest to this project that are making fans lose their minds in the best possible way. An Outlander movie might not just be a dream anymore. It might actually be coming. And if it is, then everything we thought we knew about how Jamie and Claire's story ends is about to be completely rewritten. Because that finale, as beautiful and emotional as it was, did not give us an ending. It gave us a pause, a breath, a moment right before something enormous begins. And now, piece by piece, the picture is starting to come together. So, let's talk about everything we know so far. Every rumor worth paying attention to. Every clue that has been hiding in plain sight. And exactly why this movie, if it happens, could be the most important thing this universe has ever produced. To understand why an Outlander movie feels not just possible but almost necessary at this point, you have to go back to that finale. You have to sit with what it actually did to the people who watched it. Because Season 8, Episode 10 did something very specific and very calculated. It ended the show without actually ending the story. And that distinction matters enormously. The show ended. The cameras stopped rolling. The cast said their goodbyes. Matthew Roberts wrote his final episode and delivered it to the world. But the story, the actual beating heart of what Outlander is about, did not get its final chapter. Jamie was shot. Claire refused to leave his side through an entire night that must have felt like the longest night in the history of this universe. And then, when morning came, they both opened their eyes. They both took that breath. And Matthew Roberts looked at every single one of us and said, "Figure it out for yourselves." Now, I want to be fair here. There is real artistic value in an open ending. There is something genuinely powerful about a story that trusts its audience enough to let them complete it in their own imagination. And the Outlander fandom is not a passive audience. These are people who have read every book, rewatched every episode, analyzed every line of dialogue and every costume choice and every piece of music. These are people who take this story seriously. So, in one sense, giving the ending over to them was a form of respect. But here is the other side of that. When you spend 8 seasons, 12 years, building one of the most detailed and emotionally complex universes in television history, and when you leave that universe with questions that are not just emotional, but genuinely narrative, questions about how time travel works, about what Master Raymond actually is, about what happened to Fanny, about what the white hair means, about whether Jamie can now travel through time, you are not just leaving space for interpretation. You are leaving unfinished business. And the fandom has felt that unfinished business every single day since the finale aired. That is why the conversation about an Outlander movie never died down. That is why, months after the finale, fans are still in forums and comment sections and social media threads working through theories and demanding answers. The appetite did not fade because the story did not feel complete. And that collective feeling, that shared sense of something left undone, is exactly the energy that a movie needs behind it to actually get made. Let's talk about what is actually circulating right now, because there is a difference between fan wishful thinking and genuine signals from inside the production world. And what we are seeing right now feels less like wishful thinking and more like something real is starting to move. Matthew Roberts said maybe. I know I talked about this before, but I need to come back to it because in the context of everything else happening, that maybe carries more weight than it might seem at first glance. This is a man who spent 12 years running one of the most beloved shows on television. He is not someone who speaks carelessly about the future of a project he cares this deeply about. When he says maybe, he is not dismissing the idea. He is not shutting the door. He is saying the conversation exists. He is saying it is being had. And for a project of this scale, that is actually a significant thing to acknowledge publicly. And then there is Diana Gabaldon. Diana is still writing the 9th and final book in the Outlander series. She has not finished it yet, and that matters for the movie conversation in a very specific way. Because any Outlander movie that wants to do justice to the source material, any film that wants to feel like a true continuation of what the show built, would want to align with where Diana's story ultimately lands. The show has always been rooted in her books. The characters are hers. The world is hers. And the last image of the entire show, that post-credit scene, deliberately put Diana at the center of the ending for a reason. It was a statement about where the creative authority of this universe lives. And as long as Diana is still writing, as long as that final book is still being shaped, the story of Jamie and Claire Fraser is technically still open. Blood of My Blood is also part of this picture, and I do not think fans are fully appreciating how significant that is for the movie conversation. The prequel is not just a spin-off. It is an active expansion of the Outlander universe happening right now, in real time, with an audience that is engaged and growing. That means the infrastructure, the creative teams, the production relationships, the studio investment in this world, all of it is still alive and functioning. A movie does not have to rebuild from scratch. It can grow out of something that already exists and is already working. That changes the economics and the logistics of making it happen in ways that make it considerably more realistic. Everything else, every theory, every rumor, every piece of behind-the-scenes information, ultimately circles back to the same central question. What happened to Jamie and Claire? Are they alive? And if they are, what does their life look like now? Because here's the thing. The way that finale played out, the way those final moments were constructed, it did not just leave the question of their survival open. It left open the entire framework of what their survival would mean. If they are alive in a world where everyone saw Jamie get shot. Everyone watched Claire refuse to leave his body. And everyone woke up the next morning to find both of them breathing. That is not a quiet miracle. That is a visible, undeniable, impossible event that happened in front of witnesses. And in the 18th century, impossible events do not get celebrated. They get punished. The theory about Claire's hair turning white is one I keep coming back to because it feels right to me in a way that goes beyond just being an interesting idea. It fits the internal logic of this universe. We know that time travel takes a physical toll. We know that the stones demand something from the people who pass through them. We know that Claire has been pushing against the limits of what her body can survive for 8 seasons. And we know that what she did for Jamie in those final hours, whatever it was not small. It was not a doctor treating a wound. It was something else entirely. Something that operated at a level this story has been quietly building toward for years. If she gave him years of her own life, if she poured something of herself into him to pull him back, then the evidence of that would be written on her body. White hair, overnight, standing beside a man who should be dead. And if that is what the people at Fraser's Ridge saw when the sun came up, then Jamie and Claire cannot stay there. It is not safe. It is not even a question of whether they want to stay or whether they have built a home there. The moment the community decides that what happened was witchcraft, and they would, because what other explanation do they have, everything changes. The life they built at the Ridge, the community they created, the relationships they spent years nurturing, all of it becomes a threat to their survival rather than a support for it. And that is actually a brilliant setup for a movie, because it forces Jamie and Claire out of the life they settled into and back into motion. It strips away the safety and the comfort and the belonging they finally found and puts them back on the road, back in danger. Back in the position of two people who have to figure out how to survive in a world that does not have a place for them, which is, when you think about it, exactly where this story has always been most alive. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. And I want you to stay with me on this because this theory, if it turns out to be correct, does not just change what a movie could look like. It changes the entire meaning of the show we already watched. What if Jamie can now travel through time? I know, take a breath. Because if you have been watching Outlander from the beginning, you understand why that question is so enormous. Jamie has always been the fixed point. He has always been the person rooted in his own time, the man Claire kept traveling back to, the reason she chose the past over the present again and again. His inability to travel was not just a plot mechanic. It was a fundamental part of who he was and what his relationship with Claire meant. She crossed centuries for him. He could never do the same for her, and that asymmetry, that beautiful and heartbreaking imbalance was one of the emotional engines of the entire story.